Welcome back to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by the penultimate legend, the sexy shepherdess, sexiest voice in triathlon himself, James Bell. Welcome back to the podcast.
I just had a random memory pop into my head as you were doing your intro. Your old podcast, it was called Two Fit Boys, wasn't it?
Think Fit.
Yeah, that was it. That was Think Fit. I thought it was almost called Two Fit Boys, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we were Googling potential names, and when we Googled Two Fit Boys, we found some search results that we didn't think were suitable for work. Let's put it that way.
So this podcast really should be renamed Two Tired Boys at the moment, shouldn't it? Because we've both just done two relatively epic journeys across the planet to get back to where we are, and not had much sleep, have we, mate? Where are you, Tim Ford?
I'm actually not here. This isn't Tim Ford. This is an automaton pretending to be him because he's asleep in bed. Mate, I got back from I got back from Europe. What is it? We talking like 36 hours ago or something? Mm-hmm. Not even. I think midnight on. So Wednesday morning, I got back. It's Thursday evening now, and it's, mate, how good's international travel? Like, just jet lag is the worst. And mate, fuck. Okay, my flight. So Dubai to Sydney is a 14-hour flight, and I was middle seat. And I was surrounded, and I'm not exaggerating when I say these fucking kids didn't stop screaming for 13 hours. 13 hours. Every time he'd fall asleep. And I'm not talking like I'm talking like, for 13 hours. For 13 hours, mate. It was just, I'm sitting there.
I know that you comment a lot on the amount of driving I do as opposed to flying, because if I have to go to Europe, I tend to like the Eurotunnel because but this is the reason, mate. I can't be doing with airports and parking and queuing and going through everything and then getting on the plane and then the people at the Eurotunnel, mate. I rock up in my car. I talk to a robot. I get on the thing and I'm in Europe.
Yeah,
and I don't have to deal with a human.
Not so simple for me. I can't just jump on a tunnel and get out of Australia. It's sort of landlocked.
No. I'm just I feel you on the airplane thing. It's not fun.
The other thing, obviously, having been the fact
and stuff.
Yeah, well, the other problem I had on the flight was I'd done the half Ironman like the day before. So not only are you sitting in there, but you're also super stiff and sore from racing. It's just the perfect combination, just the best.
So let's go down that rabbit hole quickly, Tim Ford. December 2019, Bahrain was your last race. How was June 2022 for your next one? How did it go?
I'm glad I got it off I'm glad I've done another one. It was Elsinore's a bucket list race. I had some challenges on race day. Let's put it that way. I mean, people don't care about my race, but I'll tell anyway. Swim was full of jellyfish, which actually wasn't that bad. I could honestly tell the divers like, yep, we're not sharp, but that's all right. Got on the bike, was going all right, and then 45k in, had a flat. It's like fucking typical. Yeah. Get off, do the thing, change the tire, which is I'm a pro. I've had that many goddamn flats in races, no dramas. Take off again, and how the race goes in Elsinore. So you do this loop out the front, which gets you back to town, which is about 60k, and then another 30k loop, and you come back to transition. As I'm coming through town, literally as I ride past my wife, I'm like, "Yep, that's another flat. Great."
Same tire. Was it front or rear on the first one?
Front on both.
Front on both. So
I don't have another inner tube.
Yeah.
I don't know because I checked. So again, it had rained in the night overnight, so the roads were wet, and normally wet roads seem to bring out the shit or whatever. But I checked the inside of the tire like I always do, and there wasn't. Anyway, don't have another inner tube, don't have another CO2 canister. It's like, fuck, I'm finishing this race. Like I'm not finished. So I'm standing with my wife like 5 minutes going, what do I do? And I go, I need to finish this race. So then I got to get my bike back down to transition, and I'm finding an official going, hey mate, I need like mechanical support. And he's like, oh, I'll find out where they are. So he's on his phone for like 15 minutes. I'm like, mate, time is of the essence here, champ. Like, come on. And then he comes back and he's like, we've only got the one mechanical support, and they're at the far end of the course. They're like 30K away. It's like, so what do I do? He's like, well, there's not really anything we can do. I'm like, so there's not even someone in the expo that I can buy an inner tube off? He's like, no, there's nothing. I'm like, he's like, there's a bike shop in town. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go there. Bike shop's closed. And I'm like, what? At this point, I'm angry. And I'm saying, Des, I'm like, I need to finish this fucking race. Like, I've not gone through the last month to not finish this race. And I go, hang on, I've got my Amonda. I took my wheels off my Amonda as my training wheels. They're in the car. take the bike back to the car. Des had to go and buy a pump because my pump was locked in the area, where you drop your bags. Get my training wheel, put it on. Des runs back with a pump she's bought, pump up the tire. Off I go. So got it done. It finished the race. It was far from the best performance ever. It was.
Yeah, I was tracking you, and I was looking at your average speed on the bike, and I was very impressed. I was like, you were right. It was like 38 kilometers an hour average speed, 38, 38, 38, 37, 37. And I was like, no, this is a complex course. He's going all right. He was comparable to other people I was tracking. And then suddenly it just went boom, 27 kilometers an hour average speed. I was like, oh, he has fucked it somehow. I thought you'd bonked. I assumed you'd just blown up. Race rustiness.
I'm not that unfit, man. I'm not that unfit.
I wasn't sure.
But it was just, it was. I'm glad. And so, man, glad I did it. Enjoyed it, despite the challenges. And I'll definitely do it again. Elsinore is a bucket list race. I actually signed up for Hawaii 70.3 that weekend as well. So I'm going to Hawaii next year. Did 70.3 So anyway,
what was the run like in Elsinore? Was it complex and fun? Or?
Fucking hell, mate! It's like the most technical, challenging, is in left, right, loop de loop fucking course I've ever done in my life. I'm glad I did the race. I wouldn't go back and do it again. I don't think it was incredible support.
A bit like 70.3 Staffordshire in the UK. It's just, I did that race once and was like, never again. The run was just like a maze. It's like a maze.
It's a maze. That's how I'd explain it. A maze. And then you run around this big castle, and I was like, that's going to be so cool. And it's like, no, the castle's like up on this fucking hill, and you don't see the castle. You run around like the base of it. And I was like, okay, that's not quite what I imagined when I thought I was running around a castle for this race. I thought I'd be like peeking in the windows as I ran past, but again, support incredible. They're such well organized events, so it was great.
If you want if you want the castle experience, then Edinburgh 70.3 is the answer. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
There you go. And maybe that's another bucket list one. We'll see what happens. But James Bale, this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, the world's premier endurance sports community, created by 4-time world champion Chris McCormack. What's something you like about it, mate?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that question, despite it coming every week.
I only ask it every single week.
Every single week. I like seeing people race. I think the example of you going back to racing, having had a bit of time off, as all of us have, it's nice, especially with this new WhatsApp group that we've got, to see everybody's racing pictures come flying in at the weekends and what everybody's up to. It's quite good fun, and the banter is good as well. So it's nice to see the group activities again.
You talk about the racing. We did this pre-pandemic, and we obviously stopped it for the last couple of years, but we brought it back. It kicks off, I think this episode comes out. Yeah, so today it kicks off. When the podcast is released, we do the racing competition. So anybody who races in our team kit and puts a photo of them on social media goes in the draw to win a free race entry to anywhere in the world. We did this in 2019, and Ashley Foote won it. He got an all expenses paid trip to Sunny Coast, which he has not been able to use yet. But we're doing that again. So all of our guys wearing those kits with the X. And it was cool to see them out on course in Elsinore. Anybody puts up a post or a photo goes in the draw, and there's unlimited. You can do park run, anything as long as you're wearing the kit with X on it.
So I don't have an MX kit. You know that, don't you?
I know. Well, you also don't really race, so it's not a huge problem.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, or when I do, I don't do it very well.
Let's speak about racing, because this is going to be a very race-heavy episode of the podcast. I was meant to talk to Ellie Salthouse, and it just didn't happen because I was a bit nervous before the race, and then she crashed during the race, so I didn't feel like pestering her after she'd had a crash. But there has been plenty of races to get through. We have there's a lot of races this week. Some will probably be a bit briefer than others. But let's get into it, mate. With the first race we're going to talk about is WTCS Montreal 2022. You got this summary. And again, I should say this, most of the race summaries this week are from Tri 24/7, because there just wasn't really coverage of a lot of the races anywhere else, to be honest.
Tri 24/7 have really upped their game, having merged recently with another company. Their coverage is the best you can find on the internet in terms of the written word at the moment, I think. So, it's hard to ignore that when you're doing things like this.
Yeah, again, 100%, guys. If you literally want to know about any big race in the world, Tri 24/7 is the best spot to go. And not sponsored, just honestly, they're doing such good stuff. What have we got here? This was from Helen Gorman. That's a new name. I've not seen Helen's name on the Tri 24/7 website before. Crashes mechanicals and more in Canada as Alex Yee bounces back to sprint past Hayden Wilde in a memorable race in Montreal. So there was the first 2 rounds with various race and elimination. Then round 1, 30 started. Then 20 progressed, 20 start, 10 progressed, 10 in the final. And then race 3 is the final. Vincent Lewis transformed from the nearly eliminated runner in round 2 to the fastest swimmer in the final, along with Leo Berger and Pierre Lecour, the Frenchman in control heading into T1. The big news on the first of the 3 short bike laps was that Wilde suffered a mechanical problem and dropped back significantly. Barely moving, he managed to put his chain back in position, and fortunately for him, the group hadn't taken off without him. Perhaps they regretted that when he took the lead early on the run and kept running further away. Only Yee had the speed to catch him, stalk him, and eventually pass him in a repeat of the Yokohama sprint finish. Yee won and was clearly delighted. Yee said, "That one meant a lot. I came into this race more fired up than I ever have, and I think that went against me in the first 3 races. And this last one, I just stripped it back and said, I'm going to have fun and do my best." On that last run, I was in the race the whole time, and I just found a flow state. And in that last 100 meters, I felt amazing. It's great to be back racing with Hayden and Leo. These guys are pushing me to my limits. Wilde was happy with second and thanked the field for not capitalizing on his mechanical issue. In finishing third, Berger retained his position at the top of the series rankings. So the results are: in first place in the final, Alex Yee, 21.55. Second place, Hayden Wilde, 21.58. Third place, Leo Berger, 21.59. Fourth place, Yella Gaines, 22.02. And fourth place, Manuel Macias, 22.05. So, again, that's just the final, but it sounds like it was a pretty rough weekend of racing. There's a lot of big names I know who didn't even make it through to the final. Some of them who got to the final were absolutely wiped. But did you watch this, mate?
Well, with our fairly busy weekends that we both had, I don't think either of us watched this, did we? We didn't watch it take place. And the one thing we said last week was we hoped the coverage was going to be better than the last time they tried to do something like this. And I'm getting the impression from people that did watch it that the coverage has improved and that, you know, the sort of broadcast side of it has improved. And from the feedback we're getting from the athletes, they enjoyed this weekend. They enjoyed these races. It's a shame that Haydo had a bit of mechanical, but it's him and Alex Yee are really shaping up to be on the men's side the kind of the fight of the year, isn't it?
You know, it's funny you say that because I genuinely, and I love you, Hayden. I think you are an absolute superstar. I don't think it's a fight, mate, to be honest. I genuinely think Alex Yee is head and shoulders above everybody else this year. Like, I really feel like he has Hayden's number because he's just got this run, mate. And like I said, Hayden is a very brave racer in the fact that he goes to the front of the bike and he puts in the effort because he tries to really dictate terms out there, whereas Yee will just sit in and then drop that killer run that he has. And as long as he's allowed to do that, I cannot see anybody currently beating him. I know you can tell that I think Hayden is trying to counter that. You see him trying to make those attacks and get away on the bike, but there's too many people around Yee that just tow him along, and then he gets off the bike, and he's the best runner in the sport. And I just don't see anybody beating Yee. And to be honest, I haven't watched any races really since Yokohama. Obviously, I've been on the road, so it's not been as easy for me. But I kind of think that's a factor, is that it's so obviously to me, Yee, like nobody's going to beat Yee's going to win this. I'd bet the house on it at this point. And it's sort of man, I shouldn't. I'm not trying to be critical because I think the way Alex is an incredible athlete, but as a fan, it is just a bit like last year. Felt like there was a lot more happening. There's a lot more different people were winning races, and yeah, I mean, obviously Christian won a lot, but then Christian would drop off and stuff. Whereas this one, unless he's crashed, he's been right up there every single time, and I just don't see anybody.
Do you feel like he's cracked the code and just gone, "This is how I win"?
Yeah, I don't think anybody is going to beat Alex Yee at the moment. I mean.
Then they need coordinated bike work.
Christian's missing, mate. That's the problem. Christian's the guy. Christian is the closest athlete in style to the Alistair Brownlee in the sense that he has that presence and the ability to organize the pack. You see Christian in there yelling at people, just like Alistair, except maybe the language is probably a bit different. But there's no one. I don't really see anybody taking up that mantle. And that's what's happened. These bikes are just becoming a pack. They're just going around as a big group because nobody's rallying the troops and like trying to actually have an attack. And I think you're really noticing the absence of Christian Blumenfeld this year. I think he would. I mean, if he hadn't have gone away and done Zyme, I think what if? I think Christian is the only guy at the moment who could probably do what needs to be done against Alex.
In my mind, I've always associated with that kind of style with a Vince Louis as well, or someone like that to take control. But it's not happening, is it?
There's no one. And we talked about this last year with the Olympics, mate. We were basically saying that somebody in that front group needs to do that because Christian will be coming through, and nobody did. And it's who's going to step up? Because I think with some of the bigger names away and stuff, and some like Martin Van Riel changed coaches. He's not having the season that he had last year. Vince is just a bit off this year. He's up there, but he's just not. That dominance we're so used to seeing from Vince hasn't come back since post the Olympics, post his injury. There's this gap, and it's Alex Yee he's not necessarily filling the shoes of an Ali Brownlee or a Christian Blumenfeld in the sense of his ability to take charge. But Christ Almighty, mate, with that run and the fact that nobody is capitalizing on the bike means that Alex Yee is able to drop that killer run and win every race at the moment. And until they start doing something about it, and again, this is what Christian would do in a sense. He would drop that killer run at the end and he'd surge and surge and surge because at least there were people together. At the moment, it's Alex and Alex and Hayden, and they're off. And I think Alex is a better runner than Hayden. So Hayden can do everything he can.
Come on, Hayden, be that man. Rally the troops.
They need somebody to step up and be that leader, have that presence. And until that happens, I just don't see Yee being beaten. To be honest, this year, I think Yee's going to probably win everything.
I agree. Talking Christian, have you seen that you can buy his bike now?
I did. It's actually not that expensive either, to be honest.
I thought it's a lot cheaper than I thought they'd punt for. The sub 7 bike, 10 grand US. What's that?
Is it? I saw it was frame set only in Australia, and it was like $7,000 or something Aussie, which is like what, $5 grand US or something.
£5 million, isn't it?
Exactly. But no, I did see that. I wouldn't. No thanks. I did see somebody tagged me was like, "Are you going to renegotiate so you can ride this?" Like, no, I'm good. I'm good, thanks.
No.
Not the ugliest bike I've seen, but not one for me.
No, for me it is the ugliest bike I've seen. It's taken it away.
That coup cycle, mate, is a hideous thing.
Yeah, it is. You're right, but
so's the Ventum. Let's talk about the women's race, mate, because as I've said, I'm not really enjoying the men's race at the moment. The women's race, and I am quite enjoying this year. And it's mostly because of two athletes, and these two athletes were right up there. So we'll go straight to the final. Summer Rappaport was the fastest swimmer, but the long T1 rewarded fastest runners, including Taylor Brown, Potter, and Beaugrand, who set off at pace on the bike. The trio rode together, motivating each other to get ahead, and they put 16 seconds into the rest of the field. The Brits were slick in transition, still in time for Beaugrand, and Taylor Brown set off into the lead. Onto the second 2-run laps, Beaugrand passed Potter and started to prey on Taylor Brown, but she ran out of ground. The sight of the blue carpet and the finish line was more than welcome for Taylor Brown to hold on to win. Claiming victory and extending her World Series lead, Taylor Brown said, "I seemed to get into the race as the races went on. It was just about staying safe for the first 2 rounds and executing the plan for the final leg." Beaugrand acknowledged that her main aim towards the end was just to keep Potter behind her. Potter was delighted with her first ever WTCS podium and finishing third. She said, "I've been knocking on the door this season, so just to execute today is a dream come true. The second round was the most nerve-wracking, so I just wanted to be in safe and have everything play out for the final round." So in first place, Georgia Taylor Brown, 24:04. Second place, Cassandra Beaugrand, 24:07. Third place, Beth Potter, 24:15. Georgia Taylor Brown and Cassandra Beaugrand are probably the Hayden Wilder and Alex Yee of the women's race at the moment, but the difference is that I actually think both of these athletes, either of these athletes could do it, mate. And I'm so happy because I'm such a huge fan of Cassandra Beaugrand to see her having the year that I think I've expected to see her have ever since I saw her have that sprint finish with Katie Zaferes in 2019. I think she's such a class athlete. And the fact that, Beth Potter's the fastest woman to ever run a 5K, I think, on the road. And she's, beating her on the run and stuff like this it's a good time to be a fan of women's racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's various elements to the outcome of this race, because last time we saw Cassandra Beaugrand win quite dominantly in Leeds, and even getting time to take a penalty and still take the victory. And off the back of that, I was thinking, are we going to see Cassandra Beaugrand just, do a bit of a yee and just stretch away across the rest of the season and start winning? And to see Georgia Taylor Brown come back, having not won in Leeds and put in this kind of performance is one element that makes me go, oh, this is going to be an interesting and competitive season. I'm going to enjoy this. But also to see Beth Potter take her first podium it's taken longer than we thought it was going to take when she first burst onto the scene in the Arena Games.
2 years ago.
But yeah, exactly. But to see her getting there and taking that podium is really cool. And hopefully this will be, a sign of things to come for her as we progress through the season.
I think we touched on it last week. I think this style of racing suits her, especially after having done all those Arena Games, where it is a series of back-to-back short races. I still think it's wild to me that this is basically a Super League race being done by WTCS. I think it's fascinating. I think reading between the lines, you have to assume that there's a World Triathlon are going to be heavily motivated by what the Olympics want, and I think there's probably some element of the Olympics. I don't see the Olympics being an Olympic distance race anymore. I think they're going to get shorter and shorter and more dynamic and more exciting. And I think this sort of thing this is the appetite. And this, when we've seen this done well, and again, I've said I haven't watched these races. I 100% plan to. Now that I'm back in Australia in shitty winter, I'll be on the trainer a lot, and I'll be watching these races on the trainer. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch the sub 7, sub 8 broadcast while I'm on the trainer, because I haven't actually had the chance to sit and watch it as a fan yet. So
I haven't either. I was asked by someone the other day, "What did you think of the broadcast?" And my brain was like, "Oh, I haven't actually sat and watched the sub 7, sub 8 broadcast in its entirety," which I will be doing over the next few days, I think.
Yeah, that's one of my. I got 3 hours on the train on Saturday, so that's going to be the swim and most of the bike. So again, it is the women's racing is exciting me a lot. The men's racing not so much, and it's not. And I don't want it. It's not fair, because I think these guys are still doing great stuff. It's just, the dynamic is a bit. I don't like it when it's the same in long course, and I don't really love it when it's just a foregone conclusion who's going to win. I feel like it is at the moment.
And I think you're probably a bit similar to me. There's a bias in my mind, anyway. Because I love the bike so much. When it's someone sitting in on a bike and relying on a run to win a race, just subconsciously I'm a bit like,
I still think
my favorite on the bike.
My favorite Alex Yee moment ever was watching him at the Olympics when Vince was trying to drop him in that mixed relay, and you actually saw him showing some grit.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Fucking, that's it, mate. Do this. This is what I want to see you do, mate. Yes, thank you. I want to be a fan." And so often the way you race just frustrates me. But
Vince almost dropped him, didn't he? Almost dropped him. And if he dropped him in that moment, it would have been a different result. But
I want to see Vince firing again. I really, really want to see Vince back to
same.
Because
he's a great bloke. He's a good man. He's a good man, Vince Louis.
Speaking of Vince firing, we had the World Championship mixed team relay in Montreal over the weekend, where France won. So we're still with Tri 24/7 Helen Gorman. Mighty France claimed a brilliant world mixed relay title in Montreal on Sunday, while reigning Olympic champions Great Britain grabbed silver to secure a berth at the Paris 2024 Games. In the first leg, at the changeover, Wild and Yee were together. The New Zealanders slightly edging it and stopping the clock at 20 minutes, 29 seconds, with Yee 1 second behind, and Brazil's Manuel Messias 5 seconds behind him. The second leg, the French were on the hunt. Lombardi used her fresh legs to move the French team into the lead, having not raced in the individual event. But Denmark's Alberta Schaar Pedersen was equal to her effort and, in fact, ran the Danes into a small lead at the changeover. France was just 2 seconds back, with Norway in third and Great Britain's Caldwell 15 seconds back on the leader, and in fourth place handed over to Dickinson. In the third leg, a penalty stops GB's progress. France's Vincent Louis opened a 19-second gap during his impressive 300-meter swim. That's ridiculous. He had left T1 before anyone else got their bikes, and even with the prospect of any help from the camera bike, he rode faultlessly in the lead. After the run, Louis had slightly extended his lead to 21 seconds over New Zealand, with USA at 24 seconds. Canada and Denmark were 51 seconds back, and Dickinson fifth at 54 seconds, but with a 10-second penalty pending for a transition infringement. Fourth leg, Taylor Brown was on a mission, with France looking nailed on the victory. Taylor Brown had eaten up the deficit of the USA and New Zealand at remarkable speed during the swim and bike. However, she needed to do more than simply outrun her rivals. She also needed to give herself enough time to take the penalty too. She chose to take it towards the conclusion of the 1.9-kilometer run, finishing with the finish line in sight, but also with USA's Summer Rappaport approaching. Taylor Brown powered out of the penalty box and fortunately had done enough as she sprinted to the silver medal and the Olympic qualification. The French margin of victory was 23 seconds at the finish. With 2 years until Paris 2024, they have a team with strength, depth, and style, but GB has an Olympic title to defend and a whole lot of determination to do so. So the race in first place, France in 127.14. Second place, Great Britain, 127.37. Third place, USA, 127.44. Australia not even up there to be mentioned, mate. What do you think of this?
We were just saying we wanted to see Vince Louis firing again, and he did. And he's so good over this distance.
He's so good.
He's so good over this distance. How old is he? 32, 33?
33, 34?
33, something like that. If the Olympics is going to go down the road of more sprint distance type racing, more dynamic racing, it needs to happen for him soon, because that's where Vince is going to get his real Olympic success, at that distance. When he stretches himself over an Olympic distance, it's just not quite his wheelhouse. But at something like this, it's brilliant. And what a race. Georgia Taylor-Brown did well again, didn't she? It's good to see Great Britain up there. Bit of a penalty, but ultimately the time difference at the end wasn't really affected by that penalty, other than maybe a bit of momentum loss. But and really good to see Australia up there too. Good work, Aussies.
I keep forgetting that the Olympics are 2 years away. I think this whole delayed thing has it keeps surprising me. It's like no, the Olympics are literally it's like a month until the Commonwealth Games. Like that, I saw.
It's not
30
even
days or something.
It's less than that now. It's
fucking hell. Are you excited about it? Because I don't give a shit this year, to be honest. I'm just like whatever. I don't care.
Oh no, I'm very excited for the Commonwealth Games, because I want to see. We've got some interest in that, and so I'm very keen to see what transpires. I won't be able to hear. Annoyingly, I won't be here to watch it, but I'll be elsewhere watching it on a screen.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know where Birmingham is, so I don't know if that's close or anything.
You can't even pronounce it, let alone point to it.
Birmingham.
Yeah, you're over syllabbling it. Birmingham, mate. Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Birmingham. You're adding a syllable
Birmingham.
that isn't there. That's
Birmingham. Oh, now it's in my head. I can't. Nope. Anyway, let's move on. The next race that happened over the weekend, and maybe we said last week there was too many races with good names instead of one or two with excellent fields. This is potentially one of them. Sanders knocks out a tooth, but still captures 70.3 Mont Tremblant title. This is from Triathlon Magazine Canada, and it's Lorene Pindiera who put this together. Another name I'm not familiar with. Despite arriving at T1 to find his front tire flat and knocking out a front tooth from the sheer effort of catching up to the field on the bike. What the fuck?
Yeah, I know, it's mental, isn't it? I swear these Canadian magazines just make shit up about Sanders to make him sound like a badass.
He knocked out a tooth from the sheer effort.
I read this.
Was he gritting his teeth and he popped one? No.
There's a separate article on the website explaining how this happened. Apparently he was pushing so hard on the bike that his tongue pushed one of his teeth out.
Bullshit.
That's what he said,
mate.
That's what I didn't know.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I swear to God, Canada just makes shit up about him. But all right. So Sanders pushed a tooth out with his tongue because he was pushing so
hard. Finishing a blistering time of 3:48.02. Mexican Thomas Hernandez in his first race in Canada crossed the line just over 2 minutes later in 3:50. It was a race for the podium for Canadians Jackson Laundry and Cody Beals, with Laundry finishing 10 seconds ahead of his friend and rival at a time of 3:50.46. In the pro women's race, Toronto's Tamara Jewett easily ran down the competition, finishing in 4:19.30, more than 9 minutes ahead of her nearest rival, American Amber Ferreira, who had a time of 4:28.36. Ferreira's 10-month-old daughter, Charlie, was waiting for her at the finish line. It was an emotional race for the American, her first race back on the pro circuit since her daughter's birth. And then you had Rachel Olsen, first out of the water, ahead of many of the male pros in a time of 24:45, finished third among the pro women in a time of 4:31.57. Now, before we keep going, I want to immediately follow up with the next one, which is also from Triathlon Magazine Canada, from Kevin McKinnon this time. And that's that Air Canada strikes again Olympic gold medalist Flora Duffy's missed opportunity at 70.3 Mont Tremblant. Missing bike, Flora Duffy wrote on Instagram, "No race, no world slot, very frustrating weekend. Thanks, Dan, for driving through the night to search my bike and endless calls to Air Canada. I flew on a direct flight from Denver to Montreal on Friday and my bags made it, but my bike and disc wheel did not. I was hopeful it would be put together on the next flight, which would only arrive in Montreal the early hours of Sunday morning. Dan went down. He drove 90 minutes from Mont Tremblant to Montreal to search my bike this morning, but it didn't make it on the flight. My disc wheel did, so he picked that up. He spent hours just trying to see if my bike was there. The airport is chaos. There are bags everywhere. It's very disappointing for me. This was a big goal of mine for this year to qualify for the World Championships post-Olympics. I was really looking forward to mixing up my racing and exploring long course. But I've tried twice now to qualify. I tried in Chattanooga, but I got COVID and I could not start. And now my bike doesn't arrive from Mont Tremblant and the window for qualification ends in 2 weeks and I'm racing in Hamburg at the World Triathlon event. So that's my attempt at 70.3 worlds done, but I guess I'll try again next year. So
for fuck's
let's
sake,
unpack the
sort
whole
it
thing.
out. Sort it out, Air Canada. Do you know what I mean? I another reason I try not to fly if I can help it. I mean, I've only ever lost a bike once on a flight, and it wasn't lost. It just didn't turn up where I was landing, and then they sent it on the next flight the next day, which was seamless. They had it delivered to my hotel for me, and it just arrived the next day at my hotel. Brilliant. But even in that instance, they'd overbooked the amount of bikes on the flight. They decided to not pack some, but they don't tell anybody. They don't tell you, and you just land and your bike's not there. You're panicking, and then they go, and someone says, "Oh yeah, they just didn't pack. It'll arrive tomorrow," and you're like, "For fuck's sake!" And it's so frustrating that airlines do this because it's just not good enough, is it? Leaving bikes hanging around at an airport. These things are expensive, and people know they're expensive.
Mm. So, yeah, the bike thing. I mean, maybe I'm trying to work out how I want to approach this. I want to go back to the men's race a little bit because Jackson Laundry finishing third behind Lionel Sanders. Again, Lionel Sanders 70.3, I think is one of the best in the world at the moment. Like, he's so good at that 70.3 distance. I'm not surprised. Give him fucking 5-minute head start. I think he'll still probably win. I wonder about Jackson Laundry, and I've I think I don't know if we touched on it offline, online. My life is all triathlon, so I never know what we say on the podcast and what we don't. Is what's it going to take for people to start picking Jackson Laundry? And I wonder about that Oceanside race, whether for an athlete like Jackson, that could be that's a season maker. That's such a big result. Are we going to see him hit those highs again this year, or is that going to be his high for the season? Then we're just going to see him a couple of seconds and thirds and maybe win a couple of the smaller races. I don't know. I definitely would have thought he would be higher, further ahead of Cody Beals. So maybe he was fatigued. I'm not sure. But again, Lionel, incredible. Tamara Jewett, one of the best probably the best female runner in the sport. Maybe Emma Pallant-Brown's the only person who I think could probably really compete with her. But the Flora Duffy thing, like, yeah, two times where this hasn't worked. Like, I really want to see her at 70.3 worlds. And I saw it was Brad Culp put this up on Twitter this week where he's like, give her a wild card. IronMan Triathlon, give Flora Duffy a wild card to St. George. And I 100% agree with that. I want to see that race with Flora Duffy in it because I really want to see her start to do some 70.3 more 70.3 racing. I've just spoken for like 60 minutes, mate. People probably forgotten that you're on the podcast. What do you think?
I agree. I think it's incredibly disappointing that she's not going to be. Sorry, I just had to deal with something. That she's not going to be at the 70.3 worlds because she's Flora Duffy, and it would be one thing if it was an in-race issue that had prevented her from not being at the 70.3 worlds. If it was a mechanical and she DNF'd at a race or something, you'd be like, well, life happens, racing happens. But to have something like a bike not turning up at an airport be the thing that's going to prevent us seeing Flora Duffy and the role and momentum that she's brought to the sport over the last few years is a real shame. It's a real shame.
Yeah, like I said, I hope they give her the wild card. I really want to see her there. They gave her one for the Ironman in Kona, so they're obviously open to it. And yeah, Ironman Triathlon, we know you listen. Come on, Andrew. Pick up that big red phone. Go, Flora, we want you there. And then Mike Riley can call, you are a half Ironman.
But I mean, in terms of the men's race, you're quite right. Lionel Sanders, one of the best, if not the best 70.3 racers on the planet at the moment. Mate, go and see a dentist because if you can push a tooth out with your tongue, that's not an look how hard I am. That's a sign of an underlying issue. All right.
I think there's a lot of jokes that we can make about that. But
but just there's something that needs to be addressed there, Lionel. Go and get it sorted, mate.
He's just tough as nails, isn't he? I saw. I think he's gonna be very dangerous. I think whether you can beat the Norwegians in St. George, I don't necessarily think, but he is so good at that distance. What he did in Oceanside, he's man. And I saw an article. This was like, is Mikkel finally broke the Lionel Sanders mold? Like, finally, is he overcome those things? And I'm thinking maybe he has, to be honest. Lionel's not young anymore. He's starting to race with experience, and I think he is like as frustrated by some of his fuck ups as I've been. I think we've been, and the thought of a polished, intelligent, professional Lionel Sanders, not the professional, like a guy who has learned from his mistakes, is a dangerous athlete in any field, mate. Like in any field. And yeah, and I'm not surprised that he won that race. I think there's not many 70.3s around the world that I wouldn't expect him to win at the moment. So
I agree.
Did you watch? Are you okay? Here's a test. There were 2 European Championships over the weekend, one in Elsinore and one in Frankfurt. Do you know who won the Frankfurt race? Because I don't.
I do not, but I see you've put it in the deck. So
I have.
I assume we're about to find out, Mr.
I mean, I do know. I just don't remember. I think it was more. I was really disappointed with the Frankfurt fields this year. And again, I understand the women's race wasn't that they had the Hamburg Championships where Laura Phillips did that incredible 8:18, but the men's race. Again, John Levinson again tried 24/7. No wetsuit in the water in Frankfurt, courtesy of warm water conditions on Sunday. Lucas Watt from Germany leading the swim is not news. He's the PTO's top-ranked athlete in that discipline, and he swam like 46 minutes or something ridiculous like that. The chase pack was 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes 15 back out of the swim, featuring the likes of Paul Schuster, defending champion Patrick Nielsen, and Chevreau from France. Second last year, Christian Hogenhaug, your friend, was 3 minutes down with the bike power of Boris Stein and Rasmus Svensson, more than 8 minutes down and a lot of road to make up. Into the second half of the ride, and Stein was well known for his bike power, was making light of that 8-minute swim deficit and now leading the race. A monster 4:10:29 bike split, and don't forget that course is long, saw him arrive at transition 4 minutes in front of a group of 10, with no luck for the 2021 winner who didn't start the run, Nielsen. So he didn't finish St. George and he hasn't finished here. Stein's T2 advantage started fading from the start of the run as Schuster, Chevreau, and Clement Mignon, Matthias Lingso, and Peterson, and Willow Wicek, that's that Polish guy, had that
the indoor guy.
Guy, were all moving well and closely bunched. Approaching 15K, the Stein lead would be extinguished. It was incredibly close at the front, and at the 21K mark, Chevreau took the lead, but was now just 9 seconds up on Schuster, with Wilco Wicek. I'm never going to pronounce that name. Probably was 45 seconds too. 6.5 hours in, that was very close racing. Chevreau was the winner of Ironman Austria last year. He ran a 2:36 and 2:35 marathons in his 2 Ironman events in 2021. Chevreau was flying on the final lap and showing no signs of weakness or distress. He'll become the first French athlete to win in Frankfurt and claim the Ironman European Championship title. He finished with a 2:38.45 marathon. The first 4 athletes all went under 8 hours. Wilco Wicek, winner 2 weeks ago at 70.3 Warsaw, held strong for second with 2:40. Willow Wiceki.
Yeah.
That's our commitment now. 2:41.59 marathon, and France made it 2 podium slots as Mignon managed to overtake Schuster in the final stages. So Denis Chevreau is your European champion with a 7:52.54. Willow Wiceki, 7:56.32 for second place, and Clement Mignon, 7:58.43 third place. In the women's, Leihrider and Bleimhall were together for much of the first half of the race before Leihrider's dame came to an end. That would leave the rest of the day a Bleimhall versus Bartlett battle. The Germans started the marathon with a 6-minute 38 advantage over the Brit. That advantage was cut by 2 minutes at halfway, a gap which remained pretty much the same over the third of the 4 run lengths. Into the late stages, however, and Bleimhall started to fade pretty badly, and with 3K to go, the gap suddenly reduced to 3 minutes. The gap was coming down, but Daniela would need a massive fade to lose at this very late stage. Bleimhall was able to rally over the couple of kilometers and add a Frankfurt title to her previous wins at Challenge Roth, which is quite significant for a German athlete. So she won in 9:02.55. Nikki Bartlett was in second with 9:05.21. And in third place, 9:16.46 was Dimity Lee Duke. Frankfurt, mate.
Yeah, now, like you say, it didn't really enter my consciousness much this weekend. Frankfurt is a race that I've got a lot of time for and have had a lot of time for in the past. I've never raced it, I've never watched it in person, but it's got a gravitas to it within the triathlon course triathlon world because it's Frankfurt. It didn't have that for me this weekend, but what confused me more is that you've got 2 European Championships happening in the same day, and that makes no sense to me.
Same. Especially when the winner of the 70.3 championship, I would assume, would be one of the favourites for the Ironman European Championship. It was on a different time.
Yeah, exactly. It's. I know they're different distances, but I give the fans of the sport a chance.
again, it frustrates me because now we got Roth this weekend, which we'll talk about in a bit. But like, there were so many races this weekend, and all of them just had like slightly lackluster fields. Where Mont Tremblant had a Sanders, Frankfurt had a Patrick Nilsson, Rasmus Svensson, a Daniela Blymehall. Like, there's none of them were stacked, and we're going to talk about a very stacked race later. But I said it last week. I just wish that they could all fucking stop doing this. Like, stop putting on 4 pro races the same weekend, and then have just stop it. It doesn't need to happen.
Something that we're going to comment on later in the podcast. We're going to re-reference this point. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Just, it happens too many times, not just in the pro field, but there's something about certain weekends of the year that triathlons are on. Because every time, I swear to God, in my own life, I've gone, I might race that race as well as that one, only to to find they're on the same weekend over and over again. Stop it, sport. Come on, spread shit out.
Here's the other thing that I'm starting to get the shits about a little bit is I've got to be careful I don't have a rant here, because I know I've had a few rants in the past and people don't like it.
Jet lag
but
rant.
We've seen the African Championship, we've seen the Asia Pacific Championship, this is the European Championship. Yet none of them have had a championship, and I mean this with the most respect. But we're yet to see these championship races, which are meant to have more slots, more prize money, more allure, and it's not working. I just don't fucking understand what is. I'm getting a bit frustrated by these athletes who aren't going out and racing. Like, I talk with Chris about this, and it's like he wanted to beat the best. He would rather come second in a stacked field compared to a first in a soft field.
Prize money's dropped off since back then, though. I mean, that's what it is.
I think championship races are still higher, though, aren't they? Like,
but not much.
Frankfurt would be more than a regular Ironman, just like Elsinore would be more than a regular 70.3.
It would, you're right, but it's still not. When there are other races with bigger prize purses, which we will talk about later in the podcast. There are people are on training cycles for different things. They're not. The problem is they're putting championship races on, but they're not truly offering a championship purse.
Yeah, and the problem is that I like the idea of this I like the championship race idea. I want to see championship races happening, but you can't. It's like a 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing at the moment. You say, where it's like, if this is a champ, then fucking attract a championship field. Don't put it on the weekend before the biggest triathlon in the world outside of Hawaii. Don't take the ego out of it a little bit. I understand that is a very difficult ask for a certain brand with an M as a logo, but like, fuck me, I want to see if I'm excited about a champ and the thing is, mate, they're now putting out they're broadcasting these races, so they're going to go away with a race that doesn't have a great field that not a lot of people are interested in. They're going to say, well, why are we bothering broadcasting? Nobody wants to watch his races. Then they'll have a race that we want to watch, like a Cozumel,
and they won't broadcast.
And there's no broadcast because it's a fucking Cozumel. It's a race that doesn't matter. Like, it fucking is frustrating me, mate, because it's almost, I'm sitting here going, I don't even know what to say next, because it's like, just fucking let's get on the same page here and let's actually start to fucking
sounds like
go and do the races where the broadcast is. Like, come on, there's a bigger prize purse. Come on.
Pitching for the Ironman head of strategy job, eh? Fancy
I'll
it?
do that. I'll do it for free. I'll do it for free, Ironman. Come to me. I will do it for free. I will be your strategist. And I just need to have, I don't know, something. But yeah, anyway.
Whereas I think I did for £100,000 a year.
I think I slowly, could feel myself getting worked up, and I pulled myself back. It's like, no, just stay calm. Because there was another European Championship over the weekend. I was there. I was live on the ground. I saw none of the action because they'd all finished by the time I got off the bike.
Too busy stalking around Elsinore looking for wheels.
Correct. But Elsinore 70.3. So again, still with Try 24/7 John Levinson. Training partners Daniel Beckergaard and Mickey Tagholt covered the bike course in a few seconds over 2 hours flat, which again, to be honest, it is not people saying it's a fast course. Fucking hell, it is not. It is a complicated, the whole course is complicated. There was that many turns and loopy fucking loops, and there was a lot of crashes that we'll talk about. But I'm not surprised, considering this was not a flat fast course. I was surprised at how it was very difficult to find a good rhythm and actually just get in the aero bars and ride fast. But so 2 hour flat bike ride, which left the pair who were third and fourth respectively at the World Champs last year, 70.3 World Champs, with a lead of more than 3.5 minutes on their countryman Thor Bendix Madsen at T2. Yuri Kulen from the Netherlands, recent winner of Ironman 70.3. Switzerland was more than 6 minutes down and leading the chasers. With their quality, Bekkegaard and Tagholt were unlikely to be challenged, and pre-race favourite Daniel closed out the day with a 1:12 half marathon to take victory by exactly 2 minutes from Mickey. So first place, Daniel Bekkegaard, 3:40.11. Second place, Mickey Tagholt, 3:42.12. Third place, Pablo de Pena Gonzalez, 3:44.25. Mate, Daniel Bekkegaard is class. He is one of the best athletes in the world, and I'm absolutely not surprised to see him win this race by 2 minutes.
Yeah, he is a good bloke as well. I sent him a message after the race and just said, mate, that was a class act of a performance, but you're very lucky I'm still recovering from a broken ankle, because I'd have been, if I was there, you'd have had someone else to think about.
I saw him in transition when I was getting ready. I went over, I was like, mate, good day, good luck today. Like, rip in, and he's like, oh, Tim, I'm your biggest fan. It's so good to see you. Like, you've made the fact that you're here in Elsinore makes this race so much more appealing, and I'm actually more excited to do this race now. That I was like, Daniel, stop it, mate, stop it. You're embarrassing me in front of the audience. Like, it's. I did genuinely say good luck to him in the morning of the race. He's a dude. He's a cool guy.
And was his response actually like, cheers, bloke I've never met before?
Hey, mate, come on, he knows who I am. We were messaging each other before the race. He was asking me how my training's going for Elsinore. Daniel, don't be throwing shade like that, mate. Yeah.
No, what a performance!
I thought you were semi-good, Tim. You weren't even off the bike when I finished the race. I was like,
fuck. That bike split's good bike split. That bike split, good.
On that course, it is.
Yeah.
Like it's honestly, it's not it was. I think looking at the performances like a Lucy Charles last year, it puts those performances in perspective for me, because I had this idea in my head going that this is just a flat, fast, straight course where you're just going to head down, ride 45k now, and it ain't that. It's not that sort of course. It's very, there's lots of turns and loops and backs and outs, and and it was wet as well. It was wet in the morning. There's a lot of crashes, so did well to ride that fast.
I must say, now that you've given me that feedback about the race, and I've had it from other people as well, people I know in Denmark who've said, it's a fun race to do, but it's not a race that isn't complex. Even the swim apparently is quite complex.
Mate, Jesus Christ, and full of jellyfish.
Little tiny honestly, ones? The little tiny ones?
No, they're probably about this big, like the size of your head.
Excellent. Just what you
need. Huge, mate. Yeah. Full of jellyfish. I'm talking fucking thousands. So many. It was like jellyfish soup. It was jellyfish soup.
Really?
Yeah, so many. Check. Des put up a photo on her Facebook. You'll see, mate. So many bloody jellyfish. Here's the other thing. Just
stinging or just in
they didn't sting. It's just like feeling lumps of goo. It was. I think there's a few. I looked at my heart. You can tell there's a few spikes. So I think I got something like tangled around my arm. Oh no! And you get one in the face and you freak out a little bit. But it's like there's like 26 turns, and at one point going out, they've got the two far turn boys next to each other, and I was aiming for the wrong one, and it wasn't until you got close you could tell, no, that's the wrong one, because you're told that you have to keep the yellow ones on your left, and there's suddenly two yellow ones next to each other. So you aim. Anyway, the thing I wanted to talk about while we're on the Elsinore thing is I've been to Denmark many, many times in my life. Denmark is so pro cycling. They've got incredible bike lanes everywhere. It's a country built for cycling. And I'd been in Spain for 10 days, some of the best riding of my life, didn't get beeped once. The drivers were so respectful. Didn't even cross my mind that there'd be an issue in Denmark. I nearly got on a punch up in Elsinore, mate, on the day I did a 70k ride a couple of days out. And I was riding, and this guy beeped me and passed me so fucking close. He almost touched me as he went past. And me being Australian, I had a few words for him. Anyway, we pulled up at a set of traffic lights, like, I don't know, a kilometre later. And he gets out and he's like, do you have something to say to me? And I had something to, I had something to say for him. And he's like, I still think this is so funny. He's like, oh, well, you want to fight? I'm like, let's go. Like you did this to me. You're surprised that I reacted angrily at you and you've now stopped. I was like, let's do it, mate. And he's like, I've just got to drop my kid off first. I'm like, what? He had his kid sitting in the back of the car, mate. And he's like, I'm just going to drop my kid off and I'm going to come find you. I'm like, I'm at the race expo. I'm heading to the race expo now. I'll be waiting for you. I'm in my kid. Come and find me. I never saw him. But I was like, fancy how this guy, and then it was like, I was pretty fired up and everything. And then he's like, I'm just going to drop my kid off. Yeah. I was like, what the?
Instantly diffuse the situation.
I was like, okay, sorry, son, have a good day at work. I'm just about to go and try to beat up an Australian. Like,
but yeah, I hear your point about Denmark. Denmark is very, very cycling focused. Like, and I've done a lot of cycling over there. I've done a lot of cycling touring over there, and it's brilliant. But they fucking hate it if you don't ride on the paths, mate. If you don't ride on those paths,
I wasn't on the path.
Because the drivers are like, you've got all the fucking paths. Get on the fucking paths. And I've made that mistake of being on the road before, and you just get absolutely beeped to shit because they're just like, we're giving you all the paths. Get on the paths. Get on the paths. We hate you. And it's like, all right, sorry.
I wasn't going on the paths, mate. Not on that bike.
No. There you go.
Anyway, the women's race. Clash Miami winner Ashley Journal was first out of the water in 24:26, which again, Ash isn't known for her swimming, so that says something. But just seconds behind her was Ellie Salthouse, Sarah De Vries, Katharina Kruger, and the British duo Pallant Brown and India Lee. Four of that group, Gentle, Lee, Pallant Brown, and De Vries, were still together 90 kilometres later, but he had been joined by another Brit in Ruth Astle, who powered through the field to join them via the fastest bike split of the day, 2:17:30. 2 kilometres into the run, and the order was Pallant Brown, Gentle, Lee, De Vries, and Astle, and that didn't change for the next 19 kilometres. Pallant Brown secured her fourth win of the season and a first in Elsinore via a 1:16:17 half marathon. She topped the podium by 1 minute 37 from Gentle. India Lee ran strongly to complete the podium. First place, Emma Pallant Brown, 4:07:07. Second place, Ashley Gentle, 4:08:44. Third place, India Lee, 4:10:33. And as I said, Ellie Salthouse was just one athlete who had a crash. Still finished. I think she came 8th, but she was like 13 minutes back. So
all the best, Ellie. Yeah. It was Ruth's bike time bike average speed that I was comparing yours with on the tracker. And so you were going slower than she was, but it was within the sort of margin of error, but you were getting slower. She was maintaining. And then that was when you dropped off, and I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" But Ruth's bike split was fantastic. Eh? What an amazing bike split to get the fastest one of the day. And we know that she wasn't expecting to have a very quick run. So 5th place is a very strong result for Ruth. I just want to raise the point that I picked Emma Pallant Brown for the win last week.
You did. Well done. Congratulations.
There you go, see.
She's another one she's on it at this. She's having a hell of a season, mate. Like Emma's always been a very good athlete, but we've seen her suffer a little bit in the heat and always just be a little bit off. She's really coming into her element. And it's funny. I think she's an athlete who's benefited a bit from Ashley Gentle stepping up to 70.3 because those two are such good runners. And we've seen Emma, where was it? The championship? Was it the championship where she ran like 7 minutes into Ash Gentle? I think having an Ash Gentle at races like this is pushing Emma Pallant Brown to another level. And we're seeing her just dominate things at the moment. She's one of the strongest 70.3 athletes on the circuit at the moment. And I think I saw in the article that I didn't include it, that she's not a sure thing for the Collins Cup. She has to be a captain's pick. Like she has to be, especially at that Collins Cup distance. You would be mad. You would be mad not to put her in your European team. Like I can't understand why you wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Options, though, we on the European side, mate. A lot of options on the European team.
Yeah, but Emma Pallant Brown should be the top of those options. She's the strongest. She's your strongest middle distance athlete at the moment, I think.
There are options. It's nice having options.
It is. I mean, we've got options too down under Team International. We've got plenty of options too, mate. We're not short of an option or two. Thank you very much. But yeah, again, I would encourage anybody who wants to go and experience that race to do it. Just go in. Like, again, the support was next level. Like the course was fucking packed with spectators. It was epic. And like in Norway, they had the center, because you run through the actual center of town. They had speakers and there were people everywhere and there were people getting pissed. And I was like, at one point I was like running past the bar. I was thinking, fuck it, there's just a beer on the table. I might just pick it up and have a quick drink while I'm doing this run, because I wasn't really in race mode anymore.
Mate. It's an energy drink full of carbs.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm keen to get racing again. That was a good thing about Elsinore. And again, great racing, great to see 2 new European title holders. The next one is, I don't want to go into, because I didn't think that Nice was a very good race, to be honest. There was only, I think there's only 3 women in the pro race. So the winner, I think we'll just go through the results of Nice, because there was a 70.3 which I haven't even included. But the pro women's, Svenja Thos from Germany won in 9:18:48. Second place was Alexandra Tonja from Belgium in 9:42:17. So that's like what? Well, like 30 minutes, maybe more, 30 something minutes behind. And in third place, Gabriela Zelinka from Hungary, 9:45:15. In the men's race, the absolute standout performance has to be Rudy von Berg, first ever Ironman race, secured a Kona slot and won with an 8:24:26. Now we know that Rudy von Berg races for America, but he's like the least American I know. He grew up in Nice. He's very European. So to see him go there and win on debut on that course with an 8:24:26, incredible. I think Rudy von Berg is absolutely one of the best triathletes going around at the moment, and I'm excited to see what he'll do at a race like Kona. Second place was William Menison from France, 8:27:42. Third place, Arthur Horso from France, 8:35:06. So that's Ironman Nice.
With a DNF of note from Joe Skipper.
Yes. I don't know, something. I think he had a mechanical or something, but he was
something like that. Yeah,
not there to be super serious. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is a bit of we've done all the races that happened, and now we're going to talk about the races that are coming.
God, it's so race heavy this week, isn't it?
I told you at the start, mate. This is what I mean. Just fucking spread them out, guys. Spread the love a little bit. Arguably, well, I don't think the second biggest triathlon in the world, as far as reputation and everything, this year has got, I think, the best field we've seen at a race outside of St. George this year. In fact, it's going to have some pretty big names, and that is, of course, Challenge Roth. Now, I have done a lot of the talking here, mate. Do you want to take the lead on this a little bit? If you like, I've done all the races that happened. You can do all the races that are going to happen. How's that sound?
Yeah, no worries. Right, on the pro men's side, the big headline for the iconic race of German triathlon is the return to competition of two multiple German Ironman world champions and previous Roth winners too, Jan Frodeno and Patrick Lange. With both absent from the recent Ironman World Championship in St. George with injuries, will we see them back to their best? Patrick was an impressive winner of a slightly short Roth race 12 months ago, while Jan set at the time the fastest iron distance time of 7:35:59 during his Roth victory 6 years ago. While the German stars will make the local headlines, having Sam Long from the USA and Magnus Ditlev from Denmark racing, to name just two, will ensure this is far from a two-man race. Long has been in Europe for a while. He was second last week in Welsh and challenged Roth being a big target for him because he's decided to prioritise Roth over Kona, isn't he? He's not going to Kona.
A good call, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. We've discussed that previously. On the pro women's side, the absolute favourite status for the women's race has to go to the 2019 Ironman World Champion and winner here last year, Annie Haug. Had a very fast win that was last year. There are plenty in the sport who consider her race last year hugely underrated, and that's likely because of the slightly shorter bike course and large margin of victory. Times can both help and hinder analysis, but her sub 2:44 run compares exceptionally to the 2:38:30 of Lange on the same day.
Mind-blowing, actually.
With only two men going quicker. Second and third last year were two Brits, Laura Siddle and Fenella Langridge, and both returned for another shot at the German superstar. Seventh, Laura, and eighth, Fenella at the Ironman World Championships in George and St. May. There was little between them, just as in Roth last year. Other podium contenders appear to be Rebecca Clark from New Zealand, who was a very close second at Ironman Australia in May. Denmark's Marja Sage Nielsen, who is 10th at Ironman World Championships in St. George, and Judith Cochran Banquera from Spain. So, mate, it's going to be an interesting race. Now, on the men's side, Sam Long is putting this out there as his A race for the season. So, be very interesting to see how he comes in. Is he coming in as hot? I mean, he will be coming in as hot as he can. Is it going to be hot enough to take on the likes of Jan Frodeno and Patrick Lange? But for me, mate, the dark horse is Ditlev. I think Ditlev is going to win this race.
I have a lot of thoughts about the men's race. So I wanted to see what Jan's run split was the year that he broke the world when he went that 7:35. I'm curious to see. I might get back to it a little bit compared to that Annie Haug 2:44 because that is like phenomenal running. To me, the things that obviously it's the Jan versus Patrick thing that I'm really, really keen because the last time we saw those two really come up against each other was Kona 2019, and Patrick lost that race before he even started. And I really think you're gonna like Patrick's had a long time to think about that. And I think we're going to see a very motivated Patrick Lange in this race. I think he's going to be incredibly difficult to beat. And the thing is, you talk about Magnus. I think Patrick is going to probably benefit from Magnus in the sense that they're going to, Magnus hasn't got the same swim as a Jan, neither does Patrick, but they could come out similar-ish, or Magnus can pass Patrick on the bike and Patrick can try to go with Magnus. We know the Germans get a little bit of assistance when they do this race.
Well, Patrick will get some, there'll be some bike support, let's say.
Yeah, the media has a keen interest in what happens to the Germans, just like Jan. But I think I'm curious because I've never seen Jan going into a race with excuses preloaded, where this one he's like, oh, if I'm not good, I'm going to stop. And I said, I just don't know. I don't trust Jan Frodeno in this sense, because he's such a master that he's either, he said it to us when we interviewed him, mate. He doesn't do a race unless he's confident he can win it. So he's going to this race thinking he can win it. The only thing is, like, are there external pressures? Is it panic? Is it like, this is my last year of race and I need to do, like, I don't know what it is. Is it he got paid? Did they make him an offer he couldn't refuse?
What did he say to you when you asked him in Girona?
I didn't speak a word to him and I was too nervous. I was too intimidated by the GOAT. Magnus has a real shot at this though. And I think the thing is, Magnus ran that 240 in Texas, and I've heard that maybe it's a bit short, but we know Roth isn't exactly the most legitimate course either. Magnus is a real chance here.
Yeah.
But to me, it's going to be, I think Patrick Lange is going to be the one. I just think Sam has had a great year last year, and he's just seemed off this year. I've not seen him have that same oomph this year that he's always just been there or thereabouts. I think he's better at the 70.3 distance than he is at the Ironman distance, but I just don't think he's going to be, he's too far back. He's not the best biker in the field when you got Magnus there. Frodo can ride a bike. Kyle Smith will be there with Frodo as well. So I think it's that Patrick Lange Frodo thing, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Patrick Lange win this, mate. I think it'd be, I mean, if Frodo wins it, I wouldn't be surprised because he's Jan Frodeno. But I just think we're going to see a very motivated Patrick Lange, and Patrick Lange is a very, very underrated, very good athlete who is a 2-time world champion, and we sometimes always seem to forget that. And yeah, I'm genuinely excited to see those two go head to head. The only athlete I think I would like to see Jan race more at Ironman at the moment would be a Christian and a Gustav, but Patrick is right up there for me. And I think this is going to the significance of this race and the men's race is going to really lay the seeds, or start writing the
lay the groundwork, or sow the seeds.
Yeah, for what's going to happen in Kona.
Yeah.
I think this is that narrative coming from this race into Kona is going to be really important. Does Jan lose for the first time in a long time and he's suddenly more motivated, or does he go in and win this in the momentum? We know that he likes to win. He likes to do that, and he won't like that he's not the number one ranked athlete in the world. He won't like the fact that he hasn't really done a race. And he did the tri battle, but he hasn't done an actual iron distance since Kona 2019. California didn't happen. It's been a long time since we've seen Jan do a race, a proper competitive field, and I love it. Like, any race has Jan Frodeno, and I'm keen to see. You chuck in Magnus, you chuck in Sam Long, you chuck in Patrick Lange. It's all good stuff. Cam Brown going there is 50, trying to go under 8 hours at 50. Don't think he will, but yeah, mate, it's going to be good. And then the women's.
I have a prediction. Stop.
Sorry.
I've got stuff to say on the men's. You've been talking for so long. It's unreal.
No, I've got a lot of, it's the jet lag, mate.
Yeah. I think the Jan Frodeno Patrick Lange element is a very interesting part of this race, and that's almost a sub race in itself. Because I don't think the win is going to come out of those two. I think the win is going to come from Magnus Ditlev. I think Roth is a good race to mitigate his gap in the swim, because it's a fairly, it's as easy as a swim can be. It's got guide ropes and it's a straight line and off you go, have fun. I think that deficit will be less, and I think the strong bike that Ditlev has got on the course like this, I think he's got enough in his legs for the sort of training he's been doing to put enough time to hold off a fast charging Patrick Lange on this run. So I'm going to call Ditlev for the win, but I think you're right. It'd be very interesting to see where Jan Frodeno shakes out, because we haven't seen him race. We don't know where his form's at, and he's a difficult man to believe. But if we believe him, then he doesn't know where his form's at either, particularly.
He ran a 2:39 in Roth. the year that he broke the record. So only 5 minutes faster than Annie Haug's. Yeah, I agree with everything you say. Sorry, I agree with everything you say. What I was going to say, though, is I think we're going to see Annie Haug break Chrissy Wellington's record.
Okay, yeah, that would be cool. That would
she
be cool.
would have done it last year if the course wasn't those 10K short because of the roadworks.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see Annie Haug go under the 8:18, 8:18:20, 8:18:17, whatever it is. I think we're going to see it this week. That's my big prediction. It's Annie Haug. I'm really excited to see Rebecca Clark, who's a friend of mine. I was in Girona. I did a bit of some training with Bex in Girona. She came second Ironman Australia this year. She's a great Kiwi athlete, so I'm really excited to see her go well. Laura Siddle, another athlete that's not spoken about enough, should be right up there. But yeah, it's going to be good, man. It's going to be a good one, mate.
It's going to be a good race, and this one I will be watching.
Me too. Yeah, except actually, time zones or something. Maybe I'll make it for the run. That's all that matters. But Jimbo, what's next?
Welcome to the down low on the PTO, as Lionel Sanders says through the gap in his teeth.
The whistle.
So I mean, this is more. Last week we talked about how Christian and Gustav have been announced for the Canadian Open, but they've now formalised the men's and women's field for the first PTO Canadian Open, and they are stacked, mate. And this is
stacked.
Yeah, it's great to see because this is what we were talking about earlier. Races that are diluted fields. We're finally starting to see an organisation come to life. And we're seeing these opens take place that we, with Collins Cup was one thing, but that's an entity in itself. It's an interesting format and it's going to draw, because of the teams, it's going to draw those athletes together. But to see them putting these opens on and to see the field stack up like this because of the way the PTO operates and the prize money on the line, it's a joy to see, mate. It really is. On the women's side, we've got Laura Phillip, Taylor Knibb, Skye Munch, Emma Pallant-Brown, Jenny Metzler, Paula Finley, Jackie Herring, Holly Lawrence, Ruth Astle, Chelsea Sodaro, Tamara Jewett, Jocelyn McCauley, Sarah Perez-Sala, Fenella Langridge, Louisa Baptista, Ashley Gentle, Lucy Buckingham, Jodie Simpson, Sarah Crowley, Hannah
Ellie
Wells,
Salthouse. You skipped Ellie.
Did I skip Ellie? Laura Siddle, Lottie Williams.
Pamela, there's a lot.
There's just loads of it. So Laura Phillip is the world number 2 and is the highest ranked athlete to start. Will face tough competition from the likes of American duo Taylor Knibb, world number 6, and Skye Munch, PTO world number 7. Emma Pallant-Brown, world number 8. South Africans Jenny Metzler, world number 9, and Edmonton hometown hero Paula Finley, world number 10. So there's a stacked selection of top 10 athletes from the PTO rankings in there, and there are names scattered throughout that start list that could, on their day, dictate terms and really bring a good performance out. So I mean, it's going to be exceptional. And knowing the PTO is no focus on broadcast, hopefully we'll get a good broadcast package of it as well.
Yeah, I think this is the complete opposite of what we saw last weekend, where this is a stacked field. Again, the men's race as well, which we'll get to, but there's so many. This is a list. I look at this and I'm like, fucking, she could win. 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 She could win.
Yeah, exactly.
She could win.
It's really cool to see that, because normally we're so conditioned to see these races come and go, and you're like, there's maybe 1, 2, 3 athletes on that start list that could win it. Often there's just one, and you're like, well, she's going to win it, or he's going to win it. But to be able to go down and see the who's who of triathlon racing these races it's very cool.
Yeah, and Taylor Knibb had her win in Edmonton at WTCS last year, the grand final in Edmonton. So it's a because I think they're are they at the same place? Are they still out in that?
Yeah, I believe
that
so.
sweet house in the state thing they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. This is really cool. Again, I love it. I love that this is a stacked field. I'm gonna try to Sarah Persala. I'm excited to see, she's
who's your pick for the women's race then? It's hard to tell. We're a bit far out, but
there's too many at the moment. People who I think could win it: Laura Phillip, Taylor Knibb, Emma Pallant-Brown, Paula Finlay, Tamara Jewett, Sarah Persala, Ellie Salthouse, Ash Gentle, Jodie Stimpson, Marjolaine Pierre. Mate, there's plenty, and I've probably I'm sorry if I've skipped. There's half of them. Half of them could win this thing. Taylor Knibb's the obvious choice, just because of I think, what she sort of does at that distance. But Laura Philipp is, I think, the best athlete in the world at the moment. So, best female athlete in the world at the moment. Yeah, but let's have a look at the men's race, mate.
On the men's side, we've got Christian Blumenfeld, Gustav Eden, Lionel Sanders, Daniel Beckergaard, Matt Hansen, Patrick Lange, Magnus Ditlev, Joe Skipper, Jackson Laundry, Ben Canute, Sam Laidlow, Rudy von Berg, Kristen Hogenhaag, Carl Smith, Jason West, Frederick Funk, David McNamee, Matt Trauman, Sebastian Kienle, Bradley Weiss, Bart Arnotts, Colin Chartier, Thomas Steger, Tim Van Berkel, and the list goes on. And
you left Sam Appleton off too.
Oh, did I? So yeah, you got world number one Christian Blumenfeld, the highest ranked athlete, set to start and be joined by his Norwegian counterpart, colleague and competitor Gustav Eden, who's in world number 2. It'll be the first time the two get to battle it out in a long distance setting, having previously chosen different races to each other or mechanical issues, putting a stop to an all-out race. The Norwegian pair will also have the likes of the
Bahrain. Gustav came second. Christian came first. Christian broke the world record.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on now. About that race. Come on, PTO.
The Norwegian pair will also have the likes of Lionel Sanders, world number 3, to contend with over the 100-kilometre course. And there's a flurry of European stars coming too, like Beckergaard, Lang, Skipper, Ditlev. Mate, I love this racing. I love this distance. And I love seeing all these names lining up against each other, whether the PTO has some sort of contractual thing where they have to have a certain amount of races they have to do each year. But I think the prize money helps and the broadcast helps, the exposure helps. And yeah, long may this continue.
He could win it. 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 Mate, yeah. Again, I love it. I love this. And some names that I'm sort of surprised. I wouldn't have expected to see a Patrick Lange on this, especially, considering that I assume his focus is very much on Kona, but I love that he's there. Daniel Beckergaard, anytime he's racing, exciting. Lionel Sanders, we gushed about him at the start. Christian Gustav, we spoke about last week. Magnus, can't speak highly enough. Joe Skipper, always like to see Joe on a start list. Mate, there's plenty. There's plenty for this race. This race is like, again, it's funny where we know the PTO do good stuff, and I've always in the back of my head been like, yeah, it's going to be good. It's a bit, now that the start lists are out, I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. And yeah, we know there's more to be announced. We know there's going to be some wildcard announcements, people who are coming in, and I'm very excited to see that they are as well.
I am too. Yeah, like you say, it's the reality of it sinking in for me. When I saw this start list, I was like, this is what a pro sport's meant to be like. Cool.
Exactly.
How about it?
Well, James Bale, you know what else is not pro sport but is amateur sport is MX Endurance. And if you enjoy this podcast and you want to be part of an age group community that has some big names like Christian Blumenfeld in it, or Tyler Mizerchuk, or Magnus, or Maya, or others, Macca, you can head to mxendurance.com/podcast where you sign up for our podcast membership for as little as $3.40 a month if you sign up for an annual plan, or $10 a month if you want to go month to month. Sign up for 1 month. $10, and you get access to the last 20 odd episodes we've downloaded. You get all the partner codes, everything. You're good to go. If you don't like it, feel free to leave. It's a way to support the podcast, keeps us doing what we're doing, keeps the lights on, gets us to races, keeps us motivated. It's a way of supporting us to do this. Gives you a little bit of extra stuff, as I said, partner discounts, bonus content, member exclusive stuff. You can go to that competition I spoke about, get a free hat if you sign up, all these sort of things. mxendurance.com/podcast. James, if they want to find out other things, what do they do?
Talking free hats, I had a free hat and a curry in the post when I got home from my trip to Europe. Cheers,
in a box from a box with Ruth Astle on it.
Yeah, strange. If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram, or you can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it in the podcast app, really helps the show out. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend, help us grow. If you've got any suggestions, criticisms, comments, or just anything you want to add to our little ecosystem, send an email to podcast@mxendurance.com.
James Bale, a pleasure as always.
Always a pleasure.
And we'll be back next week, guys. Have a good one. Talk to you later.
Cheerio.